Welcome, friends. Tonight's story begins in a cozy but elegant restaurant, filled with the soft glow of candles and the quiet murmur of couples enjoying their meals. At one corner table sat a young single dad. His shirt was simple. His face carried the weight of sleepless nights, but his eyes still held a spark of hope. In his wallet, he had only $50, the last money he could set aside for this blind date. He wasn't here for luxury, but for a chance to rebuild his life and maybe find someone who could share his journey. Nervously, he scrolled through his phone, pretending to be calm, but inside his heart raced. He glanced at the menu, his palms sweating as he calculated silently, if she orders this, I'll still have enough. If she orders that, maybe I won't even make it home with bus fare. Yet despite the storm inside, he kept a gentle smile on his face. Across from him, his date sat elegantly dressed, her eyes wandering around the room, clearly unimpressed. She barely noticed the man's quiet dignity or the sacrifices hidden behind his simple appearance. But just a few tables away, a millionaire CEO watched everything carefully. He had power, wealth, and status, yet what captured him tonight was not the taste of fine wine, but the sight of a father fighting silently for a better tomorrow. The CEO noticed the small details, the way the dad's hands trembled when holding the menu, the way his eyes softened every time he mentioned his little daughter back home, and the way he masked his struggles with a polite smile so no one would see his pain. The CEO leaned back, stirred deeply in his heart. In that moment, he realized true greatness wasn't about money or fame. It was about love, courage, and sacrifice. And this single dad, with only $50 in his pocket, carried more dignity than anyone else in the room. Friends, what happened next will change everything. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. The evening continued. The single dad tried to stay calm, but his heart sank a little when his date ordered the most expensive dish on the menu without even glancing at him. He smiled politely, nodding, but inside he felt his chest tighten. He knew the bill might cross the $50 he had saved so carefully. Still, he didn't want to show his fear. For the sake of dignity, I will manage somehow, he thought. As the food arrived, the dad spoke gently about his little daughter. How she loved bedtime stories, how she dreamed of becoming a teacher someday, how he worked double shifts just so she could have a better life. His date barely listened, scrolling through her phone, but the millionaire CEO at the next table heard every word. The CEO put down his glass of wine, his heart heavy. He thought of his own childhood, how his father worked day and night to give him everything. He realized he was looking at a man who carried the same spirit of sacrifice his father once had. The single dad reached into his pocket, feeling the folded bills, already calculating how much he'd have left for bus fare home. He whispered a silent prayer under his breath, God, don't let me be embarrassed in front of her, please. And then something unexpected happened. The waiter approached the table with a warm smile and said, Sir, your bill has already been taken care of. The dad looked up in shock. What, by who? He asked. The waiter only glanced discreetly toward the corner table where the CEO sat. The dad turned his head, and for a brief second their eyes met. The millionaire CEO gave him a small, respectful nod, not out of pity, but out of admiration. It was a silent message. I see your struggle. You are not invisible. The single dad's throat tightened. His eyes burning with tears, he struggled to hide. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. He didn't feel small. Someone had recognized the quiet battles he fought every day. Friends, sometimes help comes not in words, but in actions. And one act of kindness can change a life forever. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. The single dad sat frozen for a moment, staring at the receipt that now showed paid in full. His heart was pounding, a mixture of shock and gratitude. He wanted to say thank you, but the weight of emotions made his lips tremble. His date, however, looked irritated. She had expected him to struggle, perhaps even embarrass himself. But now the moment was ruined. She picked up her purse, muttered an excuse, and left the restaurant without even finishing her meal. The dad sighed, lowering his head. Maybe this is for the best, he thought. I wasn't looking for wealth or beauty. I just wanted kindness. Someone who'd understand. As he prepared to leave, the CEO finally stood up and walked toward his table. The room seemed to quiet down as the tall, confident man in a dark suit approached. The single dad looked up nervously, unsure of what to expect. "Excuse me," the CEO said with a gentle smile. "I couldn't help but overhear your story." The dad immediately stood, embarrassed. "Sir, I didn't mean for anyone to hear. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't know how I can ever repay you." The CEO placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You don't owe me anything. In fact, I owe men like you. You reminded me tonight of my own father, a man who gave up everything so that I could have a future. The way you spoke about your daughter, it touched me deeply. You may think you're struggling, but to me, you're the richest man in this room." Tears welled up in the single dad's eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. For years, he had carried his burden quietly, without recognition. And now, this stranger, a man of wealth and power, was seeing him not as a poor single father, but as a hero in his daughter's life. The CEO continued softly, "I want to help you, not out of pity, but because the world needs fathers like you to succeed. Come to my office tomorrow. Let's talk about a future where you don't have to count every dollar, where your daughter can have every dream she deserves." The single dad's voice broke as he whispered, "Sir, I don't know what to say. You don't even know me." The CEO smiled warmly. "Sometimes we don't need to know someone to see their worth. Tonight I saw yours." The dad covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed. It wasn't just about the money. It was about being seen, respected, and given hope again. Friends, remember, kindness is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about recognizing the silent battles of others and choosing to be the light in their darkest hour. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. That night, the single dad walked slowly toward his small apartment, the cool night air brushing against his face. In his pocket, he no longer carried the $50 he had feared to spend, but instead, he carried something far more precious, hope. As he opened the door, a little voice called out, "Daddy!" His daughter, dressed in her worn pajamas, ran into his arms. He knelt down, hugging her tightly, breathing in the warmth of her innocence. For a moment, all his worries melted away. She looked up at him with curious eyes. "Daddy, did your dinner go well? Did the lady like you?" The father's heart ached at the question. He gently brushed her hair back and smiled. "Sweetheart, sometimes people don't stay. But that's okay, because tonight something better happened." He sat her on his lap and told her about the kind man at the restaurant, the stranger who saw their struggles, who stepped in with kindness, and who offered them a chance at a new future. Her little eyes widened in amazement. "Daddy, does that mean we won't have to worry about food anymore? And maybe I can have my own books for school?" Tears filled his eyes as he nodded. "Yes, my love, no more worrying. Someone believed in us tonight, and because of that your dreams will come true." The little girl hugged him tightly, whispering, "Daddy, I always told you. God listens." At that moment the single dad broke down, holding his daughter close. All the sleepless nights, the hunger, the sacrifices, it all seemed worth it because finally light was breaking through their darkness. Friends, sometimes miracles don't come from the sky. They come from the kindness of one human heart to another. And that kindness can rewrite an entire destiny. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. The next morning, the single dad woke up earlier than usual. For the first time in years, he wasn't dreading the day. He was looking forward to it. He put on his cleanest shirt, took his daughter's hand, and together they walked toward the city. When they arrived at the tall glass building of the Millionaire CEO's company, the dad hesitated at the entrance. His daughter squeezed his hand and whispered, "Daddy, don't be scared. You always tell me I'm brave. Now it's your turn." They stepped inside, and soon the dad was led to the CEO's office. The man stood by the window, looking out over the city, but when he turned around, His smile was warm and welcoming. "Come in," the CEO said. His eyes then fell on the little girl, hiding shyly behind her father's leg. "And this must be your princess." He bent down to her level, offering his hand kindly. "Your dad spoke so proudly about you last night. You must be the reason he works so hard." The little girl nodded, her big eyes shining. "My daddy is my hero," she said softly. The CEO's heart melted. He looked at the father, then back at the daughter, and for a long moment he said nothing, because the love between them said more than words ever could. Finally he spoke. "I want to offer you a position here at my company. Not just a job, but a career. A chance to stand on your own feet without ever worrying about your daughter's future. All I ask is that you keep being the man I saw last night, brave, humble and full of love." The dad's eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you. You've given me more than I ever dreamed." The CEO placed a hand on his shoulder firmly. "Don't thank me. Just promise me this. When life gives you more than you need, pass that kindness on to someone else. That's how the world becomes better." The little girl rushed forward and hugged the CEO's leg. "Thank you for helping my daddy," she whispered. The CEO bent down and hugged her gently. In that moment, it wasn't just about business or charity. It was about family, love, and the chain of kindness that binds us all. Friends, this is the power of compassion. One small act can ripple into generations, changing lives forever. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness,